Hey there, and welcome to the next stage of our SEO workshop where we get your website ranking. In this next stage, we are going to be talking about social shares and interaction. So Google looks at social shares and the interaction people have with your content and your website, and they use that to gauge how relevant and effective your content is. If you're getting a lot of social shares and a lot of interaction, Google boosts you in search results. So that's what we want. Now, there are several ways to create social shares and get people interacting, but what it all comes down to is you need to create shareable content. Things that people want to share. And what that all comes down to is that your content needs to be relevant to them. Now, that's the very, very important thing. You may really love the photos that you post of your cat, but unless someone is looking at your website and they happen to be a cat lover themselves, they probably don't care about it. And so let's talk about how we're going to come up with content that people actually share. Here's a few ideas of types of content people actually interact with. We've got tips pieces of content, we've got tricks posts, tutorials, lists, contests, and locations. Those are just some ideas, and if you are ever out of ideas for what kind of content to produce, you can simply head over to Pinterest. So we're going to look at Pinterest right now, and all you have to do is just put in whatever type of business you're in. Let's say we do family photography. You'll type that in and just see what comes up. And so we're going to go into in-depth producing content later, but you can go through and find inspiration, whether that's simply an image kind of compilation that you put together of different photos, or whether it's something like 9 easy ways to pose large families, stuff that people are going to interact with. That's what you want to be producing on your website. Now, the next thing that we need to talk about when we're actually producing this content is we need to give people a reason to visit it. So when you produce a session, when you put a session out there onto your website, how are you sharing that? All right, so the mistake that most businesses make is they'll actually put too much onto social media, or they won't give people a strong reason to head to their website. So for instance, let's say that I was a bike shop owner in Irvine, California. This is Irvine Bicycles. We scroll down here and we see all of their posts, and we look in here, and there's not a whole lot that's actually giving me a reason to head to the website. Right? Now, let's say that I own this bike shop. I go over to Pinterest and I say to myself, what kind of articles are trending? What's, popular bike tips in Irvine, bike trails, whatever. And I put together an article on 14 mountain biking locations within 20 minutes of Irvine. Trust me, if you own a bike shop, people are always looking for trails, so make lots of those kind of articles. And I put those together. And I go on to social media. What I want to do is think of social media kind of like an appetizer. And I want to serve up a really good appetizer that convinces people to click through my website to get the main course. All right? So what I would do is I'd go onto my Irvine Bicycles Instagram page, and I would post maybe one of the 14 trails that I found within 20 minutes of Irvine. So I'd post that onto here, and I'd say, have you heard of Duke Beckham's trail, only 20 minutes from Irvine? It's absolutely unreal. We'll make a great ride this Saturday. For a full list of 14 trails within 20 minutes of Irvine, make sure to head to our website, link in bio. It would be as easy as that. And I could actually take that post, that one post of 14 different trails, and turn that into 14 different posts, and I could do it every week. Or heck, I could even do it one trail per day. But I would want to space them out, and the reason for that is I'm getting as much mileage out of the post as possible. You don't just post and promote your posts once. What you actually want to do is promote them multiple times, because you're never going to hit everybody the first time. We all know that when it comes to Facebook, Instagram, not all of our followers are actually going to see our post every single time. If I post something in my Tailored Fit Photography website, my Facebook page that is, and I posted it, maybe I'm going to have 50 of the 500 people who follow my site actually see it. So I can post the same thing several times, just do a different photo. What you do not want to do is post all of the photos, everything from that session or from your blog article you just wrote inside of your social media, because what happens then is people come to social media and instead of getting the appetizer, they get the full meal. They're completely full, they're satisfied. Why would they head to your website, right? You need to give them just enough to tease them, give them some value up front, and get them hungry for more, okay? Because remember, it's great that people are hanging out on your social media, but if they're not actually heading over to your website, that's not going to help you for your SEO in the eyes of Google. Now, once you have people over on your website, there's another thing that you have to do, which is give them a reason to interact. Now, this could be a comment, a suggestion. For instance, comment below for a chance to win a free family session. Something like that, or you could ask a question and say, hey, what do you think of these photos? Did you like this venue? Or whatever it is, get them interacting and give them a reason to comment, and also give them a way to share these images. So right now you'll see that these images, you may or may not like them, but let's say that I really love this and I wanted to save it to my Pinterest board. Well, unless I have the Pinterest plugin installed, I can't do that right now. However, if we go over, and I'm using WordPress, so if you're not using WordPress, there might be a way to do it on your website. You'll have to look that up on YouTube. But for WordPress, it's as simple as going over to your plugins, and we just type in social share. And we're going to add two different plugins today. We're going to add social share media buttons, and we're going to add the Pinterest pin it button. Both of these are very important. So the first one, I'm going to just go install now, and in the meantime, I will show you some details. Here's what it's going to do. Once I actually activate this plugin, it's going to add the option to share the post on Facebook, Pinterest, Google+, RIP, all of these different platforms, whatever people want at the bottom of the post. And then it's also, if I want to, going to show how many people have liked or engaged with this. So it's another method of showing social proof. So once I add that, I can activate it. And it might be as simple as that. I'm going to refresh this page and see if it automatically shows up, or I might need to configure it. We'll just wait as it's loading. And the next thing I'm going to do is add the Pinterest button. And that one is pretty simple. We just have a Pinterest pin it button that hovers over all of the images on our site. Super simple and super effective because Pinterest is the #1 image sharing platform out there. So you want to make sure that you have this feature on your website, whether it's through this plugin or whether it's through a different tool offered through your website provider. Okay, great. So I believe that has been activated. Let's just make sure. Where are we? Pinterest pin it, perfect. And we'll just refresh so that we have a brand new page. I'm going to clear my cake. That just means a cake is essentially when your website compresses your code, you have to refresh it when you make changes to your website for those changes to show up. So that's what I've done, and I'm going to refresh again. And theoretically, we should have some social share buttons showing up now. There we go. So we have share on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. And then the Pinterest plugin is not working for me right now. I would have to go in and see exactly what is going on here. But I won't make you sit through that. It's really as simple as going into your settings. Maybe you have to put in your account info, that sort of a thing, just to activate it. There we go. Show on post, show in page. Let's go to yes. Show on image hover, yes. And we'll make that button large. Great. Save settings. And let's just see if it's going to show up now. So you'll find that this happens sometimes when you're using WordPress. It might be that there's another plugin in here that is conflicting with this Pinterest pin it button. So I would just go through and I would either try turning off a few plugins, turning them back on, clear my cake, or install a different plugin. Sometimes certain plugins just don't play well with your themes. And that's one of the reasons that I use the particular theme, which is basically a website template that I did for signature edits. You'll know that if you've seen signature edits and you've explored on the blog posts, on all of the images we have these beautiful pin it buttons, and that's not even from a plugin, it's automatically included in the theme as well as these share buttons. But you can see I've also added this rate this post button. That is a separate plugin that you can add. So I believe that is just WP star ratings, and you can go in, add this little plugin, and that's all I did. Now people have a reason to engage. So they might not want to actually leave a comment or say anything. However, they certainly can and do rate the post. Just by hitting that, they can vote and say, yeah, this was great or this was not so great. Either way, whether it's good or bad, people are engaging, and that is the main thing. So there are 3 different ways you can get people engaging with your site and get your content interacted with. We need to give people a reason to visit, add social share buttons to our website, and then we are one step closer to dominating in SEO. So make sure you do that right now, add social share buttons, and if you have not yet had a chance to complete our earlier assignment to create a new fresh piece of engaging content, please stop what you're doing and do that right now before you proceed to the next video, okay? It's very important. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, in this video lesson, we are continuing our SEO workshop by tackling content relevance. I'm going to show you all the steps that you need to be taking when you are posting content on your website and to modify and optimize your existing content so that it is as relevant as possible within the eyes of Google. There are a few key things that we need to do for every post within our keywords, our metadata, our descriptions, everything so that we are ranking as much as possible. So let me show you what is involved, okay? We're going to be going through all of these different things one at a time inside of a post that I've set up in my website. The first thing is the URL. What is the actual destination that your post has been given as an address. So for instance, if I view this post right here, the URL is Sanctuary Gardens Kelowna Wedding Venue Spotlight. Now that's a little wordy and maybe a little bit spammy looking. However, it does have my keyword in it, which is Sanctuary Gardens Kelowna, and would also possibly rank for Kelowna Wedding Venue Spotlight. So that is the URL, and you want to make sure that you're intentional about that. We do not want something like this. Bill and Evany, that kind of a URL. That doesn't do anything for Google, so make sure you have specific URLs set up. Heading tags is another important part of our content relevance. That is the large text throughout your post. So different text has different tags in it to tell Google how important it is. So titles and headings are typically the most important key ideas within a post, so Google gives more weight to what those say. Moving on, content topic. So whether your topic obviously is in line with what is being searched makes a big difference. So Google does look at all the text overall to get a gauge of what is being covered. Post tags, and that is, I believe I have my tags here visible, but let's just pull up this guy right here. So tags that you would add to your individual post. This is in WordPress. Of course, if you're in Squarespace, Wix, something like that, it's going to look slightly different, but the ideas are all the same. Keywords and variations, those are the main words that you've specified as being important in your post. So when you are optimizing your posts, you can actually enter in within each page and post in your website what you want Google to see that page is about. So for instance, we can enter in our description and our title and our focus key phrase. That's our keyword. So this would be, or in our earlier example, it would be Sanctuary Gardens Wedding or Sanctuary Gardens Kelowna for this particular post right here. Let's see, where were we? Keywords and variations of that. So for instance, your main keyword might be Sanctuary Gardens Wedding, but in other parts of your topic or post, you might have Sanctuary Wedding at Sanctuary Gardens, Kelowna venues, such as the gardens at Sanctuary. You see just different variations of the same different keyword. Google can now intelligently look through and tell if you're kind of repeating the same keyword too much. So you want to have variations of what your keyword is. And keyword frequency, how often that word or topic is mentioned in your post. Google weighs how relevant it is to that particular subject. Image alt tags, that is the metadata behind each image in your post. So for instance, this picture of a teapot. Google can look at this, and it can look at the information inside of it, so the file name and what is known as the alt text of that image. But what they can't do, because it's a computer program, it doesn't look at this photo the way we do and say, oh, that's a teapot, those are two little red teacups, that's some tea right there. No, it's only going to do that if we've written in here. So we would go red teapot with teacups at Chinese wedding ceremony, right? And then Google would say, oh, that's a picture of a red teapot with teacups at a Chinese wedding ceremony. And so it might rank for that particular keyword, especially in Google image search. So for instance, if we go to Sanctuary Gardens Kelowna, and I search in my images, you'll see that different photographers have uploaded photos of Sanctuary Gardens, some of which are actually off of our website. And that's because in our image alt tag, we tag this as a photo taken at Sanctuary Gardens, and therefore now we are linked to. Great. So moving on, we have the post title. That one's pretty obvious. What you title your page as matters to Google a lot. And meta description, we kind of touched on that very briefly. In here at the very bottom, when we have our SEO information, we can enter in a short description. And when you actually search for something, such as Sanctuary Gardens in Google, you see how these different results come up and they each have a little description underneath. That is what your metadata is, your description here. Okay, so let's go through and let's optimize a post. I have created a post right here. And right now it is not set up to be SEO friendly. So we're going to walk through some common mistakes you want to avoid, and together we are going to make this post awesome in the eyes of Google. So let's get started right at the top with our title. At the top here, I've titled it Sneak Peek, Curtis and Ashley. And this is bad. And the reason for that is because Google has no idea what this post is about. I know that it's Curtis and Ashley who got married. I know that this is a wedding, but nowhere in this post title does it have wedding listed. Nowhere in this post title does it have the venue, which was at, I think, Black Bear in Naramata. So what I would do, rather than sneak peek Curtis and Ashley, I would have whatever keyword I want to rank for, which for weddings is typically the venue, because a bride is going to search for Black Bear Naramata, and I want my post to hopefully pop up on that search result. So I would start with the keyword I want to rank for. And then I would do something like this: Curtis and Ashley. And actually, it's not Black Bear, it's Gristmill. At Gristmill. So that would be my post title. Now it is better. Second, we've got a description here that I've added at the top, and there are a few issues with this. The first is that, as we read through it, Curtis and Ashley were the absolute bomb to hang out with and photograph. We had the best time capturing their wedding. Okay, so this is great, but nowhere in here do we have the venue mention, no locations, no details, no specifics, and no keywords. So keywords that we would want, if I'm trying to rank for Gristmill Naramata, I would want to have Gristmill, obviously. I'd want to have Naramata Wedding. I'd want to have kind of the region or the nearby cities. So let's say Okanagan Wedding. Maybe I would want to have Gristmill Naramata. Or you get the point, just different keywords that will actually tie in. So we've got a forest wedding, we could put that in there. We could do wedding photos on the lake. Just think of terms that brides are searching for when they're researching weddings and planning out their wedding, if you are a wedding photographer. And whether you're a photographer, a kayaker, a mountain biker, a dentist, a ice cream truck driver, this same technique would apply. We just make sure that we're optimizing things around our locations and our targeted keywords, incorporating that into our text. You get the idea. I would go through and grab some different variations. So I would go in here. First, I would start with a title up here. So I go heading 1. Heading 1 in Google's eyes is the most important, heading 2 is second most important, and the subheadings are less important, and text the least important of all. So make sure you know that. You want to put your keywords into your heading tags, especially your heading 1 tag. Technically, with SEO, you only want one heading 1 tag in the entire page, and then the rest would be heading 2, 3, 4, etc. So I would start off by basically repeating my title. I can exactly copy it. That's what I like to do because it's easy. Or you can go ahead and make a variation of it. So it could be Gristmill Wedding, Naramata, Curtis and Ashley. And then I would have a subheading underneath this just to insert my keyword again. And I would do gorgeous photos on the lake in Naramata. Pretend my spelling is right. With Gristmill Wedding Reception, and it was outdoors, so I will insert that as well. Perfect. So that would be my heading 2 tag. Then I would go through and I would add some more text. So there's another issue with this text, and there's not enough. There's not much going on here. The more text we have, the more keywords we can insert, the more Google has to go on for what the wedding was about, or what your post is about. So I would go through in here and I would say they were the absolute bomb. We had a blast capturing their wedding at Gristmill in Naramata, and couldn't help but feel a little sad when it was all over. We had to say goodbye. Naramata is such a beautiful place, and we love filming and photographing weddings in the Similkameen, pretend I'm spelling right, Valley / Okanagan region. It's so beautiful with all the lakeside wedding photography locations and different outdoor reception venues. Our favorite part of this Gristmill wedding was the outdoor reception and nighttime dance by candlelight. So I would go on and I would do that sort of a thing. So you see that I've got several different keywords going on here. We've got Gristmill in Naramata, we've got the Similkameen Valley, which is the larger area, Okanagan region, lakeside wedding photography. So I would go through, and you don't want to make it spammy or stupid. You want it to make sense because obviously brides potentially are going to be reading this. And we would go through and just add some text. Then I would probably, at the bottom, remember our earlier video where we looked at Adrian photographers, how they had listed their venues? That's a great way to insert keywords in an organic way. So I would go locations and venues. And I would list out my venue, my locations, my details, specifics, any vendors, and I would probably have their websites in here as well, and a little bit of information. So one thing that you can do that's really quick is this wedding was at Grist Mill, so I would just go Grist Mill, Naramata. Dun, 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 dun. And typically these guys will have some information on their website. Gristmill is a little bit smaller, so it's not going to be quite the same. But somewhere that has wedding-specific information is best. And then I would just copy that. And I would say that the location and venue was Gristmill wedding ceremony and reception. And then I would put their website. More from the Gristmill website. And I would just paste that little bit of information that they've got. And that just gives me more text and more relevance in the eyes of Google to do with this gristmill. And I would also either bold or heading tag each of these venues and keywords within this list. That will just tell Google, okay, these are what this post is in reference to. So I would do that, and then my text would be much further along. The next thing that I am going to look at is all of my images. So you can see here that as I pull this up, it shows a caption, an alt text, a title attribute, and if I were in the old version of WordPress, I think they might have changed this for now, or maybe it's because I'm in a gallery. Let's see. If I were to actually save this image, you'll see that I've titled it Curtis Ashley Sneak Peek 1, which is really not very helpful for Google because they have no idea what Curtis Ashley Sneak Peek 1 is. Whereas if I had titled it something like Naramata Wedding Photo Shoot on Johnson Lake, then they would know exactly what this photo was of, and I would have so much better chance of showing up in Google search. So I'm going to go through with all of my images, and I'm going to add some information. So I would put Gristmill Wedding in Naramata with photo shoot on the lake in the forest. And I don't remember the actual specific name of this lake, but I would make sure to look that up and add that in here. So then I would go update. And alt text, what I just added in there, doesn't actually show up on your post. So this isn't going to show up anywhere above or below the image. It's just going to be tagged within that image. So when Google looks at it and looks at the code behind it, because they don't see this picture, they just see the code, they'll see this text that says, oh, this is what this is about. So you don't necessarily want to put text in here that has nothing to do with the image. I wouldn't, for instance, put motorcycle derby and expect that this would rank and show up properly, because that would just mess with Google, and they can see through that, especially the smarter and smarter their algorithms are getting. So try and keep it literal, but you can also include your keywords in there as well. So I go through and I do that. Then I go through my next image and I do the same thing because this one's also on the lake, and etc., etc., etc. Another easier way to do this in WordPress is just go up to your Add Media button, and you can see all of the recent media that I've added. I can go through and quickly access. So here's my image title. So I would change the title as well. So I put Gristmill Wedding Reception and Ceremony. And I would go ahead and go over and switch the title tag. Now, obviously, this is going to be a lot easier for you if you just rename your photos before uploading them to your website. So you can rename your images before you post them, or you can go through and you can just do this. So normally you would decide what you want your particular post to rank for, what your keyword is going to be, and title your image around that. So you might do Gristmill Wedding, Curtis and Ashley, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc., etc. So going through here, I'm just going to modify those. And for the sake of brevity, we are going to skip doing the rest. But I'd go through and I'd also do my alt text for each one. So I would do wedding photo shoot on the lake near Gristmill in Naramata, right? And then I would do the same thing, copy over, edit it where necessary. So you could also do bride is being kissed by groom, and then wedding near Gristmill in Naramata. Okay, so you get the point. That is how you insert alt text. Now, description sometimes will show up in your actual post, so I normally leave that blank, as well as caption. Alt text and title is all you really need to worry about. Then I would go ahead and just go exit out of that. It will save these changes automatically. And so I've optimized my images. Now, next, what haven't we done? We've talked about URL, and that can be set in WordPress right at the very top here. So you see how it's currently set to Sneak Peek Curtis and Ashley. I would change it to something like this: Wedding Gristmill Naramata. Because really, the URL, the bride and groom are not going to get upset that their URL doesn't have their names in it. That's just not a big deal to them. They're probably not even going to notice, and it's going to be way better for SEO to do it that way. Great. What else? Heading tags, we've talked about and taken care of those. Content topic, well, we're going to disperse that throughout our text. Post tags are found down here, and these are probably the least important of all of what we're going to be doing today, because Google knows that people tend to stuff everything they can think of into these tags, and so they're not really perceived to be as relevant, but I still make sure to do them. So I would put gristmill, comma, gristmill Naramata, Naramata wedding, etc., etc., etc. So I go through and I'd add all of my tags right there. Moving on, we have our keywords and variations, which we talked about inserting organically throughout our post. Keyword frequency, which again, that the more text you have, the more times it can show up. Image alt tags, we did that. Post title, we have done that. And meta description, that is the last part we're going to do. And in order to do this in WordPress, you're going to want to add a plugin. So we're going to go down to add new, open that in a new tab, and we're looking for Yoast. Now, this plugin is absolutely amazing because not only do they let you edit and insert all those little descriptions and tags, they also take a look at your page and rate it, show you kind of what you can change, what you can tweak, what could be better, what needs work. And so it's very, very important that you install this plugin if you're using WordPress. If you're not using WordPress and you're kind of like, well, how does this apply to me? How do I use it? You can just Google how to insert these tags and descriptions, etc. with your particular platform. So for Square, for instance, you can go Squarespace, you can go over to your advanced SEO settings, and you can do that for pages and for your overall website. Now, I will tell you that of all of the website platforms, WordPress simply gives you the most options when it comes to customizing this stuff and editing it. It's also a little bit hard to figure out and learn at first, so you kind of have a trade-off. It's a bit more of a learning curve, but there's also more capabilities in the end. So anyways, we're going to go to add plugins, add Yoast SEO, and once that is done, you will have something like this in the bottom of your page. So you can actually see exactly what your little listing post is going to look like once it shows up on Google search. So we've got our title here, then we have our website with our URL showing up, and then we have our meta description, which we can update. So what I normally do is, because I put a lot of time into the first couple of sentences here, I will typically just grab the first couple sentences and put that as my description. But mainly what you want is to make sure that your SEO keyword is in there, whatever keyword you're targeting, as well as a variation of that keyword if possible. So gristmill wedding Naramata, and then I'm just going to get rid of that. Gorgeous photos on the lake in Naramata with outdoors, outdoor reception at gristmill. Actually, let's do outdoor ceremony and reception at gristmill near Karameos. So that's just a neighboring city. Great, so that would be my post description. And now I'm going to enter my key phrase, which is gristmill, let's say, or gristmill wedding. And you can see that this little happy face is not 100% happy. So it's got some reasons. No internal links appear on the page. Key phrase density is only 2.9%. Oh, actually, it's over the advised maximum. So I've repeated it too many times. It was found 4 times. So don't over-optimize. That is one good thing to mention. You do not want Google to look at your website and go, oh, this is a little suspicious. This isn't actually relevant. They're just inserting these keywords so that they trick me. You don't want to try and trick Google. You just want to optimize for Google. Does that make sense? So text length, the text is only 139 words. They want at least 300. So I would go on and I would add some to that. And the title is wider than the viewable limit. So I could make my title shorter. So a few things that we could go ahead and fix, and then this would turn to green and our page would be pretty much optimized. So we've gone through, we've edited our URL, heading tags, content topic, post tags, keywords, frequency, image alt tags, post title, and metadata description. Obviously, there is lots to do, and so your action items, if you choose to accept it, which I certainly hope you do if you want to rank, is to go through all of your pages, all of your posts, and you're going to have to decide what you want each page or post to rank for. And then you need to do all of this. You're going to edit your text to include your keywords in it. You're going to go ahead and add your H1 tags or H2 tags, edit your image alt text, make sure you're inserting different tags. One thing that I didn't mention is you can make sure to assign a category to your post, and that will help with SEO a little bit. It's kind of subjective. Google's a little bit secretive about what they actually rank and don't rank, so I make sure to put all of my posts into a category that lines up with what that particular post is about. So for instance, this would be probably Kelowna wedding photography is the closest location. And maybe wedding venues I could check, perhaps, if I had more venue pictures. For now, we'll just go with Kelowna wedding photography. And then I would go publish, and we're good. So your assignment, obviously, is to go through, edit each of your posts, your pages, and to optimize the content that is already there. That is the easiest thing that you can do to start ranking today. Without having to create a whole ton of new content, you can just go through and update what is already there. Now, two final things we're going to talk about. One is your featured image. That is the image that pops up on your blog or showcases whenever you are sharing your URL on Facebook, that sort of a thing. So you want to make sure to select a featured image, and also that that featured image especially is optimized with alt text. So that's important. So I'm going to go through, and let's say that I like this image the most. I'm just going to hit set and update. And the last thing that we do need to talk about is optimizing your homepage. So I'm actually going to do that in a separate video because there are a few specific things that only apply to that. In the meantime, go ahead and update your posts. Get started with that SEO optimization. Okay. Okay guys, this video is specifically about SEO for your website homepage. Now your homepage, first off, is the hardest page on your site to rank. Why is that? Because typically your homepage is about your services in general, not any specific topic that you can really optimize for SEO. Now, the best way to rank a homepage is simply by ranking your other pages, ironically. What Google does is they look at your website as a whole, how many backlinks you have, how much traffic you're getting, all those things that we're working on and talking about. And once your domain has enough authority and relevance, your homepage will naturally start ranking for different topics. So that's the first thing. Improve all your SEO all around, and your homepage will start ranking. The second thing you need to be aware of when you're trying to rank a homepage is your load time matters more than with any other post or page that you create. So the thing that you should do is go watch our video on load times and work on all of that. You can type in your website here. So for instance, we're going to grab linenjersa.com. This is our example we're looking at. Go start test. And once those results come in, it will come up with a variety of things that you need to work on and suggestions for how you can make your page load faster. So you'll notice that they do have a big video here playing at the very top of their banner, which is impressive, but typically hurts your load time if we ever get our results back here. So you can see that our performance grade is not fantastic, but we are loading reasonably fast. The only thing is their page size is huge. So it would be very nice if they could bring that page size down. However, the load time is fast, so they're doing all right. Whereas if we enter in, for instance, tailored fit photography, and this isn't to say that our website is better, it's probably just better optimized for loading, we will see that the results are probably faster and the page size is smaller. So if we were in the same market going for the same keywords and all of our backlinks were the same, all things the same, then probably our webpage would rank better. However, that said, Linen Jersa Photography is amazingly well optimized considering their page size. And we're going to take a look at their website because I think they've done a really great job at optimizing for keywords. So let's, without further ado, get into it. Now, as you scroll down, the very first thing that you see at the very top is their heading text. Remember this from our posts? Basically, we've got Los Angeles wedding photographer and Orange County wedding photography. So they've got the two main keywords that they want to rank for, which coincidentally might be the most competitive keywords in all of America when it comes to wedding photography. Los Angeles especially, there are a ton of wedding photographers here. So they've got wedding photographer and wedding photography. This is important because then they can also rank for Los Angeles wedding photography and Orange County wedding photographer. Google's going to look at all of this as a whole. Those are their tags at the very top. Then what do they have? They have Linen Jersa is the premier, and again, they're inserting keywords in here. Wedding photography, videography studio, Los Angeles, Orange County. And then they've got wedding photography, wedding photojournalism, fine art, fashion photography, wedding artistry, photographers, Los Angeles wedding photography, say hello if you're in the Orange County area. So you see how many times they've repeated their keywords just in this one paragraph? It's very strategic. It doesn't read as well as something else might. Definitely this isn't ideal, but for Google SEO, that is the best way to go. So that's something you can do, is intersperse, especially at the very top of your website, at the very top of your homepage, put your keywords somewhere in there. Even if it's just at the top and that's it, you're still doing way better than if you don't mention it at all, like most photography websites do not. So we're going to scroll down here and you'll see that throughout they have their keyword. The best wedding photographers in LA, top 100 wedding photographers in the US, wedding photography galleries. And this is all intentional. It's not by accident that they've got these in here. We've got Los Angeles, Orange County. Then we've got wedding reception, details, venue, wedding party, family. So Google is going to have no trouble figuring out what this website is all about, with all of these posts, pages, and text, most importantly, with their keywords interspersed throughout. So I can save you some time before we look through everything and just go like this. We've got wedding photography, pops up 16 times on this page. Photographer pops up 4 times. Wedding pops up 75 times. Orange County pops up 8 times, and Los Angeles pops up 11 times. So that's pretty crazy how many keywords they've got going on here, and it's no wonder they are ranking for those terms. Another thing that you can do and should do on all of your websites is make use of your footer. So here you can see they've got their location, Los Angeles and Orange County, wedding photography, in the bottom of their page, and they've also got OC wedding venues, LA venues, videography. So keywords dispersed in your footer make a big difference. Most websites have the ability to add a footer and have that on every single page. So I would encourage you to have your contact information if possible, as well as your location and even address, because that helps with Google search and Google Maps on the bottom of every page. So let's go over here. Here's how you'd add it in WordPress. You would go to Appearance, then Widgets, and here you've got your footer. So I would go over and I would grab my little text guy or just custom HTML, and I would say footer 1, and I would type in what I need. And then I might put in, LA wedding photographer, 81 Francesca Crescent, if that was my address, right? So I'd put that in, have it on every page of my site, and that would definitely help. So that is a couple of things that you should be doing on your homepage specifically. Now your homepage, let me show you in behind the scenes. One side note, SEO, once you have Yoast SEO on your WordPress site, what's really cool is they rate your pages for keywords. So you can see it's green if they've given it the green light, it's red if it hasn't been done, and it's orange if it still needs work. So that's really cool. We're going to find our front page, which is our homepage, and you'll see the title. I've got my keyword right in the title. Kelowna wedding photographer, tailored fit photography, and then I've repeated it a second time, Kelowna photographer. So that probably is too much. I could switch that to Kelowna photography. But whatever, let's go ahead and edit it so I can show you the back end of what this looks like. And you're still going to do the same thing. If your theme allows it, you're going to assign your own keyword to this page and do a meta description the same as you would with a post. The only main thing that is different from optimizing for a post is a post, it doesn't matter quite as much what your load time is like, because this is the big deal with Google. And obviously, home pages get linked to as a result of other links and other backlinks on your site. So for some reason, this isn't cooperating so much. There we go. So you can see that my focus key phrase here is Kelowna wedding photographer. Readability is looking good. I could add some subheadings as well if I wanted to. And reading ease, it reads very well, which is great. So it's all been optimized well, which is probably one of the reasons that I'm ranking well. Having a featured image as well, if we click on this, if it will let me edit it, you can see that right in my title, I have my keyword that I'm aiming for, and I've got tailored fit Kelowna photographer website. Okay, so that is a few optimizations you can make to your homepage. Make sure to have text. The more text, the merrier when it comes to Google. However, it's a balance. It's really up to you whether or not you want to have those keywords in there or whether you want to keep it more conversational. Again, it's a balance of SEO and user experience. So just use your best judgment there, and that is how you optimize a homepage successfully. Hey guys, we are continuing our SEO workshop by focusing on getting website traffic. Now, getting traffic can be one of the trickiest parts to getting your website ranked because when you have no experience, no portfolio, you're just starting out, getting people to actually find your site can seem a little impossible, especially because Google tends to rank sites that get traffic. And so without the traffic, how do you rank? And without ranking, how do you get traffic? So we're going to focus on some different strategies to get you that traffic, and it all comes down to one thing that we've talked about already, and that is creating content people really care about. Now, this is the important part. It has to be content that people care about, not content that you necessarily care about or your mom thinks is awesome. It has to be stuff that people are actually looking for, okay? So how are we going to do it and get it out there? Once we have that content, we're going to share it with people who actually care. We're not going to share it with everybody. We're just going to go where the people are who actually care about what you have to say, what you have to share, the resources you are creating. And if the resources are good, they will get shared by those people. And all of a sudden, you have people visiting your website and finding you through their friends, and everything is one big happily ever after, okay? So how are we going to do that? We're going to come up with content that answers questions, that solves problems, and provides entertainment. One of these. It doesn't have to be all three in every post, every piece of content you produce, but those are generally how we make shareable content. Does it answer a question that people haven't been able to find an answer for? Or does it answer it in a better way than they've been able to find so far? Does it solve a problem they're having? Perhaps you bought this course because you are having a problem getting leads, getting bookings, and that's why you bought this course. Well, that's because it solved your problem. And does it provide entertainment? Let's say I told really hilarious jokes or you found a funny GIF, you would share that simply for the entertainment value. So that can be another strategy as well. So once we have that content, we are going to go where your people hang out. It's as simple as that. We take that content, we share that content where your people are hanging out. So here's a few ideas of where those people are hanging out. Pinterest, forums, Facebook groups, and Reddit groups. All of these are traffic gold mines that if you use them properly, if you have the right kind of content, can bring you so much traffic and start this great Google wheel spinning. Okay, so we're going to dive in and look at them one at a time, different methods for each. We're going to break down Pinterest further in an intensive workshop in the future, but for now, let's just hop over here and demonstrate again on my feed right here because I pin a lot of wedding-related stuff. I've got all sorts of wedding-related imagery, but all you have to do is just search for wedding planning, or a topic that is somehow relevant to your business, and 9 things for guests to do between ceremony and reception. So that's a great idea. It's obviously being shared because it's at the top of the search. So I could go in and I could go ahead and make my own. I could call it, 17 things to entertain guests at your wedding. And I could go through and find a bunch of different objects or items or activities or games that brides can make, and I would make a post that would round up all of those things, and then I would create a nice pin like this. I would pin it onto Pinterest, and people would eventually find it. Now, when you're making a pin, what's really important is that you put your information in the pin, that you're also adding a title and making an engaging image, and you're adding it to a board, hopefully that is something to do with whatever topic that is. So if I had let's undo that. So if, for instance, I was trying to target family photography, I would perhaps create a family photo inspiration board. I would create another board that was preparing for your family photo session. And if I was doing weddings as well, I would create one that was, planning your wedding or do-it-yourself weddings. And I would have all sorts of pins for that and create articles around that. Okay, so that's the Pinterest strategy. You simply post it. And honestly, this has gotten me 80% of my traffic when I was starting out. It was as simple as, let me show you an example. When I first started out, let's do IKEA wedding. Here we go. Truly brilliant IKEA wedding hack. So I saw this idea on Pinterest that was things that you could do from IKEA for your wedding. And so I created my own post. I found a few different items on IKEA that were really great that people were using for their weddings, and I just shared them. Now, you have to be careful how you're doing this. If you're doing it on IKEA, you're not going to get sued for using their images without permission because you're linking to their site and selling their stuff. However, I have gotten into trouble by being a stupid idiot and not using images with permission. You do not want to do that. So make sure you're using images that have permission or are royalty free. You can head to a site like unsplash.com. That's all royalty free images. And let's say I needed a picture of a table. I could go through and grab a picture of a table and download it from there. And I need to make sure that I resize it, again, for our SEO purposes, to make it nice and small on my site. But anyways, I made this, then I created a pin, and that pin got shared hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And all of a sudden, I was ranking my website for totally unrelated content, and all of a sudden, my other keywords that I was actually wanting to rank for started going up, 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 up. So it doesn't take much. Only 4 or 5 awesome posts, if they go viral, will truly skyrocket your rankings. So that is a great way to get traffic by doing that. So if you do one of those a week, you will be in the money. Next is Facebook groups. So it's as simple as going onto Facebook, find your area. So I'm in the Okanagan, so I'm going to look up Okanagan brides. Or again, whatever group would represent your customer. And here we go. We've got groups. I can go to see all. And if you're in a larger area, you'll probably have more groups to look for. But I've got Okanagan Bridal Swap. That's only got 9 members, 8 members. But this one has 782. So I can go here. And hopefully, once I join this group, there will be a way for me to come up with some kind of content. So it could be 10 different bridal items you can get for under $100, or something better than that. Go onto Pinterest, find an idea, or just see what questions people are asking. And if a bride is asking a question, hey, what do you think about this? I'm having trouble finding XYZ. You can answer that right on here. And in addition, hopefully once in a while, link to your website, provide a resource, provide an article, provide insight, and that is a great way to generate traffic. Next is Reddit board. So I've gone onto Reddit, and all you have to do is type in your business topic. And you're going to need to make a Reddit account. And then you can see we've got all of these groups. And look at that. Wedding planning, 82,200 subscribers. That is money. So I click on there. I can subscribe to the group and go through and just see what's happening. What are people asking? What problems are people having? How can I solve them? So here we go. I'm looking through here. This is interesting. Somebody posted that. 48 comments, and I'm looking for stuff that is getting engagement. So what I could do is simply sort by, let's say, top posts. Took a huge risk and bought a non-refundable secondhand dress on Tradesy. It fits almost perfectly. Didn't even get it to try on before I bought it. I'm in love. Okay, so could I make some kind of variation of this? I could do a post on thrift store dress finds, or I could do a post on how to find the perfect dress used, or how to save 90% on your wedding dress, and then I could post that in this group. Now, certain groups aren't going to allow you to do that blatant promotion, that sort of a thing, but what they will allow is for you to post your information in this post, let's say, and add flair to your username. So under your username in certain groups, you're allowed to actually have your website in there. And what that's doing is creating a link to your website. So somebody reads this awesome article I've just written on finding a dress for 90% off, and then they click on my website, and bam, traffic is generated. So that's an amazing way to reach people. And finally, we have online forums. So it's as simple as looking up, for instance, I'm in Kelowna. I could look up Kelowna Wedding Forum. Now, I'm in a small city, so there might not be any Kelowna wedding forums here, but we've got Wedding Wire, for instance, looking for affordable venues in the Kelowna area. So what I could do is I could write my post, or I could even take the post I've already created on Kelowna wedding venues, and I could reply to this and simply say, hey, here's a link I've put together, all of the top venues in Kelowna, check it out. And now what I've done is I've directed any bride who comes here and sees this particular post will see my answer, helpful as it is, click through to my website, and hopefully wind up either sharing my post, giving me more traffic, or even booking me for photography if it works out, right? So that is 4 simple ways that you can go ahead and start creating traffic now. It's not about just posting photos and hoping for people to show up, or applying SEO strategies and just hoping people show up. You have to actually do something to start the ball rolling. So these are 4 great strategies. If you do a couple of links per day, a couple of posts per day, just answering people's questions, linking to your site, you will start to see huge results, because what happens is I answer this question, this link is on there, and it lives there forever. Now, anytime somebody sees it, bam, they click this link, go to my website. I'm getting a small little drip of traffic here. Then I would have a post in Reddit, and that's a small little drip of traffic. And all of a sudden, all of these tiny little drips all over the internet not only are giving me backlink juice, which is good for Google SEO to begin with, but also giving me steady, consistent traffic. And trust me, as a result of doing this, my website receives 10 times the traffic of what most photographers do. And because of that, I find I'm continually getting more backlinks as people share my content, and I am getting better rankings. So that is the way to do it, guys. 4 awesome ways to generate traffic for your website. It's time to go out and apply it, okay? So we're going to do 1 to 2 of these per day for the next 7 days. That's all you have to do. Go ahead, work on creating some content that is shareable, that people care about, and then share it with people who actually care, not just randomly on your Facebook and hope that people will find it. You have to go out to groups of people who already are interested in your topic, okay? Do that, answer their questions, solve a problem, or provide entertainment. It could be as simple as going through here. And if I scrolled long enough, I'd probably find a hilarious ad or a comic or something like that. And I could remake that in Photoshop and share it on Pinterest, right? Or I could remake that and share that right on here. So it's as simple as finding content that's already working, that's already solving problems, and creating something newer, better, updated, more thorough. Okay? Go out, execute, and I will see you in the next one.